I'd like now to ask the plaintiff to open with oral arguments.
Your Honors, if I may please the court, my name is Bianca Miranda, and I represent the plaintiff. Ms. Nadia Hamed, against the Canton of Ticino. Would Your Honors like a summary of the facts?
Yes, please. Yes, please.
The plaintiff, Nadia Hamed, was a student in the state school Locarno High School, number 3 in Locarno, in the Canton of Ticino. The plaintiff has been a student in the Locarno State School system from 2003 to the present. The family of the plaintiff are adherents of Islam and Ms. Hamed practicing Muslim. In May 2018, Ms. Hamed was expelled from her school after she began to wear the niqab at her school, shortly after turning 18 years old. Ms. Hamed was given a warning to stop wearing the niqab. After many warnings by the school, Ms. Hamed was expelled from Locarno High School number 3 on May 22, 2018. Your Honors, this is not a case about whether we like the niqab or not. It is about rights. Without rights, the world would not be how it is in the present. We created rights for one simple reason, to protect humans. The world is creating new things like AI and new medicines and technology and more. Aren't those the important things we should be talking about right now? Why exactly are we making a massive case about this? About a group of women that number less than 300 in the whole country. Your Honors, my colleagues and I today will show that we believe the niqab should not be banned. Thank you.
Now to ask the defendant for oral arguments.
Your Honors, if it may please the court, my name is Luka Vicent Marjanovic Voltas, and I am the lead counsel for the defendant, the Canton of Ticino in this case. Your Honors, we have heard that the plaintiff argues that by not being allowed to wear the niqab, the Canton of Ticino is violating Article 9 of the European Convention of Human Rights. It is important that we read this article in full. Article 9 says, everyone has the right to freedom of thought, conscience, and religion. This right includes freedom to change his religion or belief, and freedom, either alone or in a community with others, and in public or private, to manifest his religion or belief in worship, teaching, practice, and observance. However, this is not the whole story. If we read Article 9 completely, it continues that freedom to manifest one's religion or belief shall be subject to only such limitations as are prescribed by law and are necessary in a democratic society in the interest of public safety, for the protection of public order, health, or morals, or for the protection of rights and freedoms of others. So thus, as the appellee states, there are in fact reasons that you could make a law against someone's freedom or of religion, that is integration into society, security of society, and to protect freedoms of others. This is the base of the Canton of Ticino's law against the niqab. The law against wearing the niqab so as to protect our open democratic society works with the second part of Article 9. This means that the plaintiff's arguments are not valid. In addition, the second argument of the plaintiff, that the Canton of Ticino is violating the plaintiff's human rights, is also incorrect. The niqab is not required to wear under the Islamic religion, as my colleagues will point out in a moment. This is a choice of dress, and the Canton of Ticino is correct in making a law against it, in the interest of a democratic, open society. Your Honors, the defense will show that the law against wearing of the niqab in school is allowed by both the UN's Universal Declaration on Human Rights and the EU's Convention on Human Rights. The Canton of Ticino must not only look to protect the rights of individuals like Ms. Hamed, but to also protect the society we live in.
I'd like now for the plaintiffs to continue their arguments.
Your Honors, if it may please the court, Switzerland signed two very important documents, the European Convention on Human Rights and the UN's Universal Declaration of Human Rights. These are more than just pieces of paper. These documents are not toys. They are not just pieces of paper which you can rip up if you don't like them. This is what these documents say. Switzerland did sign the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. Our country said they would defend all articles, including Article 18. Everyone has the right to freedom of thought, conscience, and religion. This right includes freedom to change his religion or belief, and freedom either alone or in community with others and in public or private, to manifest his religion or belief in teaching, practice, worship, and observance. So it is up to the state to prove that they need to take away these women's rights. But Your Honors, the Canton of Ticino has no proof about this. Many women, when you ask them why they wear the niqab, says it helps them feel close to God. Again, we might find that strange or don't agree or like it, but it's not about what we think. It's about their rights. We might not believe the same way as the wearers of the niqab, but we should believe in their rights to wear it and respect these women's rights to make their own decisions.
Honest. It's not about how many people don't like the niqab in Switzerland. It's about the women themselves who choose to wear in the niqab and their right to express their religion.
This is not a popularity contest. To make it clear, many on this side do not necessarily like the niqab. But more important is the right to express your religion, which is in the Declaration of the European Convention. Your Honors, in the 1950s, in the United States, roughly 3/4 of the voting population in the southern states were against any rights for Black Americans. Would it have been correct to say that Black Americans should not get their rights because most people were against it?
Your Honors, if it may please the court, this is a deeply personal choice. Many people assume that women are forced to wear the niqab against their will, but this is in fact not the case. People were presented this idea that women needed to be saved from men who forced them to wear the niqab. Perhaps many people would be surprised to learn that often the parents of the young women who wear the niqab are against their daughter's wishes. This is in fact very insulting to women, since the people against the niqab are saying that women can't take care of themselves and need someone else to think for them. In fact, this argument for women's rights looks like it was written by men who are anti-feminists themselves. Thank you.
Your Honors, some women say that they think of the niqab as a beautiful religious fashion statement. Your Honors, this law from the Canton of Ticino is disproportionate. It goes much further than needed. Can't we just make a law for not forcing women to wear the niqab? This law goes too far. Your Honors, the plaintiff, Ms. Nadia Hamed, is an adult. She is able to make decisions for herself. In fact, she is very reasonable and is happy to show her face to the instructor whenever she needs to. She is active in class and everyone will continue to know her by her voice and by her active participation. She is not a problem for her class and there was no complaint from any other student. Thank you.
The defendant will, of course, make a case about bringing society together. However, all this is doing is pushing away pushing away the people who are wearing the niqab out of society. The niqab does not hurt anyone else in society. However, but it does hurt the women themselves, who are the targets of hatred and discrimination. There are 2,000 or so women in France who wore the niqab before 2010. So how are they today? Our neighbor France now lives in a society where, as Agnes Defoe says, it's normal to insult Muslim women wearing a full veil just because it's disobeying the law. They are attacked and pulled their veils off. Is this really what we want our country to? In fact, Mr. Fu says that many new wearers of the niqab in France are young women who began wearing the niqab because it became an identity to them.
A study by the Open Society of Women in France, after the ban of the niqab, interviewed 32 women who had been wearing the niqab before the 2010 law. The study showed that most women did not stop wearing the niqab because they felt that would be abandoning their religion identity. 8 have removed it. 27 continue to wear it. 31 of 32 of the women stated since the law was made, said their lives have been made more difficult. Instead, these women said that they socialized significantly less before the law and cut down to outdoor activities to the strictest minimum. Some of the women said that they felt depressed and had anxiety attacks about leaving their homes. Others said that they stopped going to see a doctor. In fact, many women said that the law has negatively affected their relationship with their own children. As Sema Abdulwami said, no matter what the laws passed on the niqab, it will not stop me wearing it. I don't want to be controlled and told what I can and cannot wear. Then is the alleged security issue. If we need to ban the niqab because it is too big and you can hide something under it, then we should also ban coats. Instead of an extreme law banning the niqab, couldn't society just ask the women to show their faces to security whenever necessary? Your Honors, this is more than just about the niqab. Your Honors, what is the message that the law is trying to tell us? Is it trying to make us into one society, or is it trying to keep us away from each other and make hatred even worse? Agnes Defeu, a sociologist who has studied the French law, said that we created a monster. Many who went to Syria to fight stated, Islam was not welcome in France. Is this what France wanted? Is this what we want for a Swiss society?
I'll now ask the defendant for continuing arguments.
Your Honors, Miss Hamed is a school student in the State School of System of Switzerland. If Miss Hamed is allowed to wear her niqab, then the school would not be a school anymore. It would look more like a mosque. Schools in Switzerland are not religious places, and this has been the law for over 100 years. We cannot have separate rules and exceptions, and rooms for different religions. Just imagine if somebody had to pray every hour in math class. What would it look like? It would be absolutely unworkable and confusing for the rest of the class. There are many things in our religions that are different. For example, Christians celebrate Christmas and Jews celebrate Hanukkah. But these cannot take place in school. It is the same for clothing. We must all accept some compromise in our religions for society. If we would go to another country, we would respect the laws that limit our freedoms. All countries have laws to protect their society. For example, if we go to Dubai and they tell us that we need to take off our shoes every time we walk into a building, we would do it. Likewise, Ms. Hamed needs to accept that Switzerland too has laws that tell people how to act, and she must respect the laws of her own country.
Your Honors, the defense believes there is an obvious problem about her identity. Identity in a democratic society is very important. Seeing each other is an important part of how we understand each other's identity. Walking down the street, people may not want to talk or help someone in niqab because they can't see her expressions on her face. The niqab creates a distraction when trying to talk face-to-face with friends or teachers. The school is supposed to be a place where people come together, talk face-to-face, and learn from each other. As a Western country, we interact and share expressions with each other. This is an important part of our culture and society. The niqab prevents that from happening. However, the women who wear the niqab are like black ghosts, cut off from the rest of society. Ms. Hamed's identity is invisible to the naked eye, and because of this damage to identity, the law against the niqab is reasonable and lawful.
One very important point about niqab is that it's very new. Your Honors, let me be clear. If I wish to emphasize the fact that niqab is not required to wear by Muslims, if we make a law against the niqab being worn by Muslim women, it will not even make any difference to Islamic tradition or even to the old years of Islamic tradition, because the clothing does not even come from main tradition of Islam. In fact, the niqab is not Islamic, it's Saudi Arabian. Let me explain. The Quran calls only for men and women to be covered and modest. There is no direct rule from Quran that women must wear the niqab. So, where did the niqab come from? Originally, the niqab came from the small region of Saudi Arabia called Najd. Only when the Wahhabi government came to power in Saudi Arabia in 1970s did the wearing of niqab become more widespread. After 1970s, the tradition spread all over the near countries. However, this tradition does not fit into culture of Europe. The Canton of Ticino is correct by saying that government cannot accept the extreme religious clothing for two important reasons. One, it does not fit in our culture. Two, because it's not required for Islam.
Your Honors, as my colleagues have already explained today, sometimes we have to limit our religious rights. The plaintiff's argument about it not bothering the school is not valid. The niqab does disturb the school environment because in a social environment like a school, seeing a person's face and identifying expressions is important. If you can't see someone's face or the people around you, many people will naturally be on edge and tense. The plaintiff's argument that the Canton of Ticino law is discrimination is also not correct. The banning of the niqab is in the spirit of integration because you can't integrate without people seeing your face. As has been said by my colleagues, face-to-face recognition is very important, and people can't really recognize her or even know her expression without seeing her face. We don't know if a person is interested in what you're saying, if they will listen, or if they care. When most people don't show their faces, we do not know how people are reacting. This is an important matter because it is important in our society because we value the idea of seeing people's face. Our society needs communication and visibility, Your Honors. This is why the Canton of Ticino law is correct and in line with the law.
Your Honors, the plaintiff states that the law of Canton of Ticino is discrimination against Islam. However, the law is not about targeting Muslim women. The reasons for the law is only about people feeling comfortable of seeing people's faces and being able to live together openly. The law is also against anyone who would cover their faces for other reasons. For example, a protester with a scarf hiding his face. The point is that we expect to be able to talk with people openly, to know someone's identity. We need to stop describing this as an attack against Islam. The Canton of Ticino fully respects all Muslim rights to their religion except this one. Sometimes we must accept limits on our freedoms. This is one of those times.
Your Honors, I'd like to conclude that the ban of the niqab law should stay as it is. The niqab is not a requirement of Islam, it's not even Islamic, and it's certainly not an ancient culture. We know that the banning of the niqab will cause problems for some women, and we understand that this situation is hard. However, my associates have been making very strong points on why the niqab is disturbing the society. Steps have to be taken, for example, to defend society, even though they are sometimes difficult. And even if we made the change in the law, Islamic women would look like they're living in a separate society. Local people wouldn't even bother talking to women with niqabs because you can't read their expression and you don't know if they're interested in listening. As for niqabs in school, it wouldn't be a school anymore. it would be a church full of faceless phantoms. Society is all about socializing, integrating, blending in, having open conversations, and uniting everybody in one open society. Your Honors, in conclusion, we are only protecting the openness of a democratic society who can be broken easily if Islamic women like the plaintiff, Ms. Hammond, are allowed to wear niqabs.
There will now be a 5-minute session before the rebuttals. 5 minutes.
Requirement. It is it's a conscious choice in school. I think if they needed to hammer the thing that we're talking about schools here.
We will begin with the defendant. Any points that you would like to make, ask of the plaintiff?
As the plaintiff stated, that many women wear it because it makes them feel a little closer to God. The niqab isn't even religious clothing, as we stated. It's not part of Islam or anything. And also, as you had said, that about Article 9, the first part, you have to read the whole article in full, as we stated again. On the second part of Article 9, it has again stated that there are also limitations that are prescribed by law. As you were also saying that we're basically saying that women were forced to wear it, we're not saying any of that. We did not say a single thing about women being forced to wear the niqab. We know that is all their choice.
Like to respond?
But some women are also forced to wear the niqab.
Yes, but this is not the case in Muhammad.
Okay. Further points by the defendant?
No, not to be made.
Plaintiff? You may make any point you like towards the defense.
But it is their religion.
Yes, but as we stated, it is not religious clothing either. It cannot be their religion, it's not part of Islam or anything.
Defense? Plaintiff, further points towards the defense?
Well, if it's not religious clothing, then why do they say that it makes them feel closer to God, even though they're the religious people who read the Muslim Bible?
Because they're simply misinformed.
Any new points from the plaintiff's side?
I don't think so.
If there are no further points,
Anyone, it's not your opinion about them.
It's not our opinion, but it is facts. Niqab started in Saudi Arabia and it's not part of the Quran. It's not Islamic.
In fact, niqabs aren't made in Saudi Arabia because Saudi Arabia became a country in the 1930s, and the niqab, they started wearing it even before BCE.
Nope, they had started wearing it around the 1970s.
No. So, as a few of you guys mentioned that people are uncomfortable with it, in the paper that says everything, everyone was fine with it. All the school was fine. It's just she was wearing the niqab, and you guys were mentioning about security. She can easily lift up the thing for security, and she was happy to do it. And in the thing, it says easily that everyone was fine. You guys are saying that it's uncomfortability, but in the thing, it says everyone was fine with it.
Well, just because they didn't report it doesn't mean that they were fully fine. And you may be right with the security part.
and your second point?
When you said before, you said that Christians had Christmas and Jewish had Hanukkah, but in school we do celebrate Christmas. So why aren't in school we're allowed to wear the niqab?
This is a private school, not a state school.
And now we're done.
No,
It's no one's opinion that counts. It's about their rights, the women's rights, and no one can take them away from her. Every part inside the UN Declaration of Human Rights and the EU, the European Declaration of Human Rights, by banning the niqab, we are still following every single bit of it.
In the UN Declaration of the Human Rights, Article 18. Everyone has the right of freedom of thought, conscience, and religion. This right includes freedom to change their religion or belief, and freedom, either alone or in community with others, and public or private, to manifest his religion or belief in teaching, practice, worship, and observance.
Don't forget to read the second part. It says such limitations can be granted if it's prescribed by law.
I'd like to call this to adjournment. Thank you very much. Marie Penat versus the Canton of Vaud. I'd like to ask the plaintiff to begin oral arguments.
Your Honors, my name is Alessandra and I represent the plaintiffs. I will give you a summary of the facts of the case. Marie Penat is a student in the town of Charbonnet. Marie attends a co-educational school and is set to go in a single-sex middle school in August 2019. The Penats believe that the Canton of Vaud's decision to only offer a single-sex school is discriminatory. As representatives for the Penat family, we strongly agree with their perspective that co-educational schools must be available because of the essential formative experiences they provide. In our modern world, there are more co-educational schools. Single-sex schools are declining, which can be seen in Australia. My colleagues will continue to share many solid facts which clearly support the viewpoint that Charbonnet should immediately change its decision to only offer middle school as a single sex. Thank you.
Defendant, please, all arguments.
Your Honors, my name is Arthur and I represent the defendants of the Canton of Vaud. They defend their policy of only offering single-sex middle schools. They claim this strategy is not discriminatory as it significantly raises standards in attainment, particularly in girls with math. Another reason for this necessary separation is it supports both boys and girls through the difficult emotional and physical journey of puberty. Boys could be embarrassed with their changing voice, girls could be self-conscious about wearing swim costumes. When the genders are separated, this change becomes more manageable. My colleagues here will continue to explain several reasons to support our case. We strongly urge you to consider the viewpoint of our team and support the Canton of Vaud's decision to separate both genders in middle school.
Your Honors, I would like to introduce our first point, which is interacting with the opposite sex. Communicating, socializing, and learning with the opposite sex is extremely important for real life. When you get older and get a job, you're going to be working with girls and boys. So it's more important to have co-educational schools rather than single-sex. The children in single-sex schools don't experience diversity. They don't see other sides of things, other opinions and other ideas. That is extremely important for our learning. Let's take a look at single-sex schools in Britain. The number of single-sex schools in Britain has fallen by 45% over the past 20 years. It is because single-sex schools are unwanted and not important. Co-educational schools are much more efficient. We looked at some perspectives of people who looked at a video about single-sex schools versus co-educational schools. Jim Martin said that in a single-sex school, girls are the leaders, but girls can also be the leaders in a co-educational school. Tara Villa says that she wished she went to a co-educational school. She says that it is important to mix genders while you're young so that it's not so hard and complicated when you're older. Thank you.
Honor. I support the Penix family, and I strongly believe that Charbonnet should have coeducational secondary school. I find it discriminatory to separate children by their gender. So my first point is, boys and girls at the same school give a better balance. Boys and girls at the same school give a better balance between emotional feeling as well as the social feelings. Because boys rather, I know I'm building up here a stereotype, but it's rather they don't show as much of emotions, and girls show a lot of emotions, so they can find a balance between. And as well in social life, as a quote from we made an interview with somebody, Miss Holton said she preferred going to a co-educational school because she went to both schools, and she said in co-educational schools there's a bigger amount of interests, so it's easier to find friendships, because even if you're out of the box, you can find friendships easier as well with the opposite gender, not only with your own gender, which is the problem at single-sex schools. And friendships is a very important part of learning, because it isn't academic school only as well for academics and social, but not only for academics, which is part of single-sex schools is a lot of focusing on academics. And on debate.org, we saw a study which said 74% of the people who voted said they would like their children to go to a co-educational school because they feel better if their children to mix with the other opposite gender. Thank you.
Your Honors, even though some resources show that children do better in single-sex schools, however, that is maybe not true, because concentrating is in your head, and even though if you can be with girls and boys, you'll concentrate even into both of the schools. And when you're with both sex, sometimes you get encouraged to work harder to get attention and get victory, and to get the attention of the opposite sex. And it is harmful to separate gender. Why? Professor Lise Elliott, a neurobiologist from Chicago, studies children's brain and gender development. Her studies show that social environment is very important and improves academic learning.
Your Honor, single-sex schools develop stereotypes. The girls will care more about their looks, and the boys will become more aggressive. This was proved by some US researchers. People do learn differently. That means that there are no advantages to single-sex schools. 1.6 million students from 21 nations failed to find any advantages to single-sex schools. Thank you.
Good morning, Your Honors. Me and my team strongly believe, as the canton of Vaud, we should separate gender for single-sex schools. So girls can do whatever boys' activities they want without having the fear of being laughed at. So boys can do whatever girls' activities without having the fear of being laughed at. For example, boys can do gymnastics and girls can do football. My point is that there is no girls' subject or activities, and same for boys. So students should be judged by their ability and what they're passionate about, and not their gender. Thank you, Your Honor.
Your Honors, me and my team support the Canton of Vaud with their decision to separate girls and boys during their school time. I believe that single-sex schools are a comfortable environment for both boys and girls. For example, The Telegraph has recently published an article where they explain that girls tend to be more motivated than boys in school subjects. In a single-sex school, boys won't have to be intimidated by this. Also, Helen Frasser, the head of the Girls' Day School Trust, writes in The Telegraph that boys tend to dominate discussions and group activities. In a single-sex school, this won't happen because girls and boys are separated and are in a happier and better environment to grow up in. Thank you.
Your Honors, me and my team truly believe that, truly support the Canton of Vaud with the decision of single-sex schools. One of the reasons is because girls focus more on the STEM, which is science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, which is usually more a male subject. And it has been proven that when girls go to university after being in a single-sex school, they are more eager to continue and have jobs in STEM. In addition to my fact, the BBC News said girls at a single-sex school are more likely to study traditionally male-dominated subjects, like STEM. With STEM, students develop key skills like problem-solving, creativity, critical analysis, teamwork, and more. Thank you, Your Honors.
Good morning, Your Honors. It is undeniable that the Canton of Vaud has made the right decision of separating both genders during middle school. An experiment in a middle school in Switzerland showed. They took 668 females, half of them stayed in the coeducational class, and the other half went into the single-sex class. The single-sex class went into the improved their math scores by 7 to 10%, while the coeducational class didn't improve at all. Historically, boys are better than girls at math, so it's an area of focus to decrease the gender gap. Single-sex schools address this problem extremely well. Thank you.
There will now be a 5-minute recess before rebuttals. We'd like to ask the defense for any points they'd like to ask of the plaintiff.
You've been talking about Great Britain and Australia, but do you guys have any facts about Switzerland?
Well, it's not only Australia and which one?
Britain. But it's all at single-sex schools, mainly the social life gets missed out. So it's all around the world, not only in Britain and Australia.
And actually, where we got our resources, it did say Australia, but it also said all in other places in the world, not just Australia.
Oh, do you have another, sorry?
So, you mentioned that girls and that kids have to experience diversity, but first of all, single-sex schools don't say that they have to be away from boys out of school. And second of all, girls are all different and boys are all different. So they actually do experience diversity.
But in any way, real life is with boys and girls. So they miss out on important skills too. Like maybe there is diversity between the girls, but they may miss out on many important skills with dealing with the opposite sex, and that's a very important skill that you miss out for further life, especially for jobs.
And in the school day, school takes up most of the day. And if you go to a single-sex school, you do not see boys in the school day. So, and when you go home, you probably just see your brothers and your dad.
What about on the weekend? There's 2 whole days of seeing other friends from opposite genders.
The schools are always diverse, are always separated. The boys and girls are always separated.
And on the weekends, it's only 2 days, and the rest of the week, you're with only your gender.
But in 2 days, you can do many things with the opposite gender.
But, as mostly as well seen here at GEMS, boys and girls don't do things together at recess. So they don't do anything together at recess, so they're probably not going to do anything together in weekends anyway.
However, in class, you could be made partners, and you would work together on a subject.
But Lily, how do you know that they don't hang out with each other, huh? Well, do you see girls and boys play football together when it's not with Mr. Richards? Do you see boys doing gymnastics with girls? No. Did you see the separation between the sports on Friday and PE?
And Arthur, what you said about in the weekends, if you don't know any boys because you're not going to go to school with them or play with them at recess or lunch, you're not going to have any friends that's the opposite gender of you. So how do you have then anyone to play with?
Coming back to what Lily said, you said that there's gender separation with like sports and playing at recess, but that's because we choose. Maybe it's not because of the gender, but it's because of what sport it is. Maybe we don't like it.
You say that you don't see boys do gymnastics with girls and girls do football with boys. That is because they might be too shy, or they might want to be with their friends. But when they are all the same gender, they will practice and have more opportunities to do it in their free time, for example, in their weekend.
If you're in a single-sex school, do you know any boys, girls or boys? If you don't even interact with them, so how are you supposed to know them and go with them at the weekend?
But maybe it's like your mom or dad has a friend who has a son, and you can interact with someone of the opposite gender who you can interact with.
As Professor Lise Elliott says, it's harmful to separate gender. And why do we separate gender if we as well separate, if we are not allowed to separate people by their race, hair color, eye color? Why do you separate them by gender?
A long time ago, we separated by race and skin color, but we stopped that because we realized it was wrong. So why are we separating by gender now?
Well, Lily, you mentioned Lise Elliott a couple times, and you said that it's better to have both genders mixed. Well, actually, she said that separating genders is better and they can concentrate through their year.
Well, from where do you have that?
We listened to the video, and she actually said mixing gender, not mixing genders is harmful.
It's not the same person.
It is. Professor Lise Elliott.
There was more than one person in the video.
Professor Lise Elliott from Chicago said that it's harmful to separate gender.
Are there any further points from either side?
Maya, referring to your point about activities, when you said girls and gymnastics and boys and football, that means you're stereotyping the activities that they'll do. And if you don't... Oh, no.
But you can cancel the stereotypes. Going to a single-sex school, you can cancel the stereotypes out by doing different sports, and the next generation will be different, totally different.
If you have single-sex schools, there are different types of girls. There's girly and tomboy. And if you have single-sex schools and there's not many tomboys, and you're the only one maybe in your class or in your grade, you're going to be alone all recess because they want to do that activity and you rather want to do something else.
But going through puberty is a really hard moment.
So
it's better to go in a single-sex school because having the opposite gender can lead to many distractions and embarrassment.
So actually, and coming back to that, it could be distracting, but on the other hand, they could be more encouraged to work harder, because if they like someone,
but liking someone can lead to many problems.
But if you're in college schools and you're going through, if you're in college school and you're going through puberty, and you don't know how the opposite gender will act because everybody acts different to puberty, and then if you guys get to know each other in a co-ed school, that means if you see something changing in their personality, you know that they're going through puberty.
Can you list some of those many, many, many problems?
I will not because we're too young.
But in a debate, you're never too young.
Being in a single-sex school is better because you can basically, if you're in a single-sex school, let's say boys, there's not going to be difference. Everybody's going to have the same problem and you can understand each other. But if you're with the opposite gender, you can get embarrassed and that can lead to problems.
And plus, one of the many reasons why he's not going to say it is because there are some people who we don't even know in this audience, so it could get a tiny bit weird.
You should be mature to say something like that because you're being immature to not be telling things that you should be mature about, and that means you're kind of making fun of it.
Do you not know there's little kids in this room right now?
There's a baby there.
Any other points from the plaintiff?
Getting back to Griffin's point, maybe they were people who changed, which were smarter when you said that girls did much better in single-sex schools, and maybe they were the people which changed, and not the gender.
It was the same teachers who were teaching. It was the same school. It was just they changed. It was an experiment, different classes.
And Lily, when you said that in mixed schools they would play more in the weekends, actually in the weekends boys tend to play more video games and then girls do something else. That's stereotype.
But anyway, that's making you say yourself that boys separate from girls, so how can they in single-sex schools on the weekend play together? And second of all, most of the single-sex schools are private, so if you don't have enough money to pay single-sex schools, and there's not enough money, you can't go to a single-sex school. And third of all, in USA, there are about 283 single-sex schools, of like about 89,000 public schools which are co-educational. So there's no real reason to go.
In single-sex schools, for girls, do things which usually interest boys, which gives them more chance of interacting.
Noor, where did you get the information that single-sex schools is stereotyping?
Well, it's clear to see that they really don't know where they get their
With stereotyping the activities, I got it from what you said in your presentation.
We have a final point from each side now.
Coming back to Australia, when 7% of the schools are single-sex, and they think in 2035 0%. It will be clear that co-ed schools are better because they're declining. The single-sex schools are declining.
Okay, final point by the
Though that's in Australia, and we're in Switzerland. Yeah. So it's Australia and Switzerland are pretty different.
But the most important parts are like the most impressive parts are in Australia. There are more. If you want more, there's more stuff.
Okay, we'll have to adjourn there. There will be a slight recess while we confer, and we'll be able to give you the decisions. Thank you. Both groups made our life
Very difficult.
really difficult. I think the parents here who witnessed this excellent display would have to agree that it's very hard to choose out of these 4 excellent teams. You did a very good job of pulling your arguments together. It was well spoken. It was a real credit to you as students. We have discussed that I cannot vote on these, of course, because I'm part of 5th grade. So I'll hand it over to the other my colleagues to decide on the 2 cases.
Sure. I don't mind either one. What do you? You take the first one? Sure.
So in the first case about face coverings in school, we really had a hard time deciding. We thought that on both sides there were really good points. On the side of the defense, we felt that they were really relying on the argument that the law allows limitations to religious freedom and expression under certain conditions, and those conditions being safety of society, public health, and certain other things that were listed out. On the plaintiff's side, they were really trying to argue that those conditions were not met, that there was no security reason, that there, and so in the end, we actually felt that the defense didn't convince us necessarily that there were conditions to limit freedom, but the point that they made that was also very strong was that it was not actually a religious issue, and that it was not a matter of religious expression. And so between those 2 sides, we ended up with a split decision for the first case. So very well done on both sides.
Yeah, one of us chose one and one of us chose the other, and there's only 2 of us. And we didn't do that on purpose. On the second case, I thought you both did a fantastic job, and you really stuck to your arguments well. On this side, obviously, you were arguing that single-sex schools are particularly better for academic reasons, specifically for girls in STEM. On this side of the table, you were talking about the social benefits of being in a co-ed school, quoting research from a doctor from Chicago that says, there actually can be detriments or the problems from not having that social interaction. Again, we thought that both sides made a very, very strong argument. But what we really, really liked at the end, and we thought that one of the closing statements that may have tipped the balance for us was really pushing the idea that there is a worldwide trend towards the decline of single-sex schools, and that it's not just in Australia and other places, but that that worldwide there is a push away from that. So we actually sided with the group that said that we should have co-ed schools.
So that concludes our debate. I'm sure the parents here, thank you very much for coming, first of all. It's been a wonderful experience for your children, and hopefully for you as well. Certainly for us, to see the wonderful skills on show. And Miss Holton and I are really proud of the way that the class has pulled through. So thank you very much for coming.